Hey everybody, welcome to episode 24 of Dad and the Jiu-Jitsu Kid. Yeah, I know we've been out for a couple weeks now, actually about 3 to 4 weeks. We've had a couple, just life in general come up. We've got the kids' pans that came up. We got a couple tournaments that we had to take care of. And also too, we were on the case of the cruds. Everybody in through the household kind of just fell ill. And we're in the mood to get any kind of podcast or do anything just in general. But we're back, and actually we had to reschedule this guest that we had today, Allan Di Lucia. He's actually we've been eyeing him for the past couple months now since we heard about him and ran across him on Instagram. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Tanquinho here at Soul Fighters in Tempe, Arizona, and he has a really awesome story that really touched home with us. With our family. He runs a nonprofit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu team called Unlimited BJJ, which solely focuses on special needs students. And actually, he brought the program from Brazil, and he ran a program out there in Brazil with the at a school there, and he's opening it up here. So we're going to learn a lot about him, and also especially about the school, the program, and how we can help. I'm going to put all the information on how to contact him, how to get more information about the program, and how you can help him and reach out to him if he needs any help with sponsorships, donations, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a really amazing story to hear from him. But also don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, give us a 5-star rating, and it helps our podcast a lot, and incredibly appreciative from the last support that we've had for the past few months, and almost actually coming on a year for the podcast. But make sure to follow us on Instagram at Dad and the Jiu-Jitsu Kid, and on our website at dadandthejujitsukid.com, and also listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, of course, under Dad and the Jiu-Jitsu Kid. All right, everybody. And also too, don't forget, we've got everything up on YouTube now, so we're actually getting a lot more feedback and a lot more listens from YouTube. All the audio's going onto YouTube, and with some video also now too, which this episode is also. So check it out.
What is this?
The show is about nothing. It's about a man and his kid.
Does he have superpowers too?
Dad and the Jiu-Jitsu Kid.
He's just a special kid.
You are now DQ'd.
Fight!
Hey guys, welcome to episode 24 of Dad and the Jiu-Jitsu Kid. We have an amazing guest today. We have our special friend of ours that we've met. Actually, I've had the pleasure of meeting him before and followed him for quite a while on Instagram now. Allan Di Lucia. Welcome, Allan.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you all. Good to hear from you all, and it's good to be heard from all of you.
Yeah, awesome. We have Ryan, of course, again.
Hey.
So yeah, we've been out for a couple weeks. We've been busy. He was sick for a while, so we haven't posted anything out for a couple of weeks. And we had kids pan ams from the week before, and we were just before we just started. Right now, we were actually just getting in a good conversation about advantages and tournaments and
Submission only
kind of thing, especially with Fight to Win. Like with that coming into the area, I like the way the format that they came out with. I like the stage. I think that Fight to Win gave jiu-jitsu practitioners now, or exposure to be. You don't have the big names sometimes, but you have a lot of pocket of people that are really, really good. And then I like the way how Fight to Win is able to kind of exposes them, but the format of that. How do you like that super fight? Because there's a lot now.
Yeah,
right?
It's a lot going on, and like Fight to Win is the bright side of it is you can see like tough guys on the small cities or like local guys fighting, and sometimes they go there and they put up a good show, instead of like big names that go there and try to win by advantage or so. So it's good to see that going on. Super fights for me is a good way to put like two guys in the stage and put pressure on them and try to make them fight as hard as they can. Some organizations try to adapt some different rules before. Some of them work very well, some of them don't. Submission only event it's awesome to make them finish the fight. However, when you don't have a submission and when you have like tough guys fighting highest levels, it's hard for you to have a submission. So I just believe they need to find out another way to give the winning to somebody and be more like specific, almost like straightforward, instead of just like a ref's decision is too vague. It's hard for you to tell actually, if the guy won or not. It's always that kind of doubt, in the air. So it's good to have like something like straightforward to show who won or not. And in my personal opinion, I think that the last one to score wins, like a golden point, like an extra time for a golden point, should be a way to make them fight harder, and for not like 20 minutes like a DCC for 5 minutes or so. And hardly they won't score any points or stall for during the fight. Somebody's gonna make a mistake, and then that will be the end of the fight, and it will be fair enough. That's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I like especially with some. I mean, when you mentioned something, we have like two good black belts who have faced each other probably a lot of times, or high level black belts. I mean, you put them on the mat, I mean, they're not scoring on anything. I mean, it's just back and forth, or there's a lot of the stalling, especially if they go into like something like 50-50, and they're sitting there trying to do something. I mean, I think one of the ones that I saw was a while ago when it was Keenan Cornelius and Gordon Ryan. They were like an hour or a couple hours into like a fight, and I'm like, and until a submission happened, I think Gordon Ryan caught Cornelius in a submission, but I was like, it took that long for something to happen. I mean,
the Copa Podio tried once to put the Meow. It was, I think, as far as I remember, is the first submission only fight, and Nogi against Meow and Gianni Grippo, if I'm not mistaken. And the fight took like 1 hour, and the fight was like between the semifinals and the finals, so it was like a super match. And but they were like pulling guard and trying to attack their feet. Of course, nobody tapped for 1 hour. And the reason of the fight was like there will be no time at all, so it'll be submission only. They end up not submitting each other. So at some point, somebody pulled a string and say, all right, stop the fight. Never mind. Let's do it again or whatever.
They're points now.
Yeah, they're like, all right, we're going to do the rematch in the next Copa Podio. And they end up like forgetting about it, let it be. That was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Two very tough guys, high level, till now, but it's still not a good match to put like submission only, because they won't submit each other, They won't open the game that much. So it's just hard. It was big mistake for the show. Everybody was watching for like an hour, the pay-per-view, fell asleep and all that.
Yeah,
and, the popcorn ran out, and where's the show is
especially
over.
Someone that doesn't understand, or like if you bring like, hey, bring my girlfriend, let's watch jiu-jitsu, like this is the most boring thing in the world.
Exactly.
And even I think anybody that even does it are like, all right, already, kind of like, let's get with it and let's get going. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's the good thing, is like when you are able to post something online on Flow Grappling and have it, a lot of people view it. And then also too, like, oh gosh, this is like, boring. You're all just laying on the floor and there's nothing going on it's going on for an hour now. There's nothing. So I like, I don't think there's a perfect format. Even EBI stuff, there's still kind of the format. I love that. I mean, of course, sub only, and then the overtime, how it goes. But we were talking about it on a podcast with somebody, I forget who it was, and like people train for the overtime because they know they can go through the whole time limit.
Yeah.
And they practice how to escape to win the overtime, or they practice how to, they train just the overtime.
It becomes too specific, right?
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, I know I can not get submitted in the allowed time that they have. And the one that we've talked about before is that we liked is the Berkut. I think it was Berkut that had the
ACB.
Yeah, the ACB, yeah, the 3 rounds, and it was points, kind of IBJJF format, but it was like 3 rounds, and then they had a scoring of kind of like a point scoring, like MMA, like an 8-point, like a 10
like
point
per round, yeah,
per
10-9, yeah.
And each round you get
my professor Tanquinho fought in the ACB, and they're like the organization is unbelievable. It's beautiful. They work very hard, and everything is like humongous. It's too big, but they end up having problems in the last season. 2 guys got disqualified, both of them, for stalling. So that showed like a flaw in the organization, like in kind of the rules, because you put them on a stage to do a big match. They already have money just to be in there. Like the show up money is already enough, it's a good money. And so they try to win by advantage, or, by the who make less mistakes or whatever.
Who has less penalties.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. To get just more money. And I believe they should be like, if you're disqualified, you lose the money at all. You know, you go out of the organization or what all. So they both got disqualified. The owner of the ACB lost the interest on jiu-jitsu. So we all lost on that, you know. They were putting like a big show. Yeah.
Really, I was wondering because they were putting out quite a few at a time. And then, I've noticed that I haven't heard anything come out anymore.
It was like in June, right before the no-gi season. And actually, my professor Tanquinho is the no-gi champion. And it was like we were expecting him to defend his belt anytime soon. And the ACB just pulled there's like
was it the one that they had here in LA?
The one in LA was with João Gabriel Rocha, also from Soul Fighters, and Bochecha. But there was one after. I think the fight in question was Fedor, the little Fedor from Checkmat.
Okay, yeah.
And one more guy that I don't remember. His name is Marcus, I believe, but I don't know him very well. But anyways, Fedor is like a world champion black belt, high-level guy. I fought him before. Very nice guy, super good. But, the fight was just too dangerous for both of them, two high-level black belts. So they were like afraid to make mistakes, a lot of stake. So end up being like disqualified by penalties, which is like a shame for the sport, at all, because the ACB was putting like a great show. And, that happens. It's just a flaw that happens once and show maybe a mistake in the rules or, in a way to run the business. I don't know. It's just opinion here. I don't run shows.
No,
so,
we always, it's always an opinion. That's a good thing about is I think, and it's good for, I think, organizers and promoters to hear like opinions of people, like of not just competitors, but of fans. Like you got to like take them into consideration too. Like what do the competitors want? But what do the fans want too? Because without the fans, you can't pay the competitors.
And as a fan, I feel bad for it. I wish I could see like more ACB tournaments going on.
I really like it.
Like BJJ Stars now, they made like an amazing job. The tournament was beautiful. They put out like an awesome show, awesome organization in Brazil, which is super, super hard.
That was just last weekend, right? Or was it? Yeah,
like 2 weeks ago or so.
Okay.
Yeah. And they made like a super big effort to make everything happen, and see that happening in Brazil means like the sport is going into like a good direction, you know what I'm saying? And they're making the rules better. It's just a matter of time to adapt and make one good way to run the business, Hopefully will last more than the ACB, and hopefully the ACB will come back strong and, keep putting up a good show.
Yeah, hopefully they get that figured out, or if hopefully they're working on it, because you could tell they put a lot of money into it, because there were different ones all over the world, and they were putting out a lot of money for prize fights and getting the fighters in there. They're having like these big weigh-ins, and it was like super cool. I think before a podcast, we were watching one before the podcast, and a few months ago or sometime last year, and
I liked those ones. Those ones were interesting.
Yeah,
just the way it was set up.
Yeah, the format was awesome, and that was definitely my favorite kind of format. I like the fight to win because it's local. I like the Kasai, and we've seen that the Polaris was really cool. But the Polaris one was nice, but like everything was a draw. Like, oh,
yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Like, all right, like another draw. I'm like, well, of course it's gonna be a draw, and fight to win. It's nice because it's. Judge's decision, and it's always trivial. I mean, it just, who thought like, okay, who did the most? Was that a submission attempt, or did they stall, or can they? I'm like, it's kind of vague. Anyways, it's just kind of opinion of a human being, what they felt like.
Yeah, just the fact that we're talking about it, it's already something big.
Mm-hmm.
It means a lot for jiu-jitsu just to have that amount of people covering an event and showing like opinion and talking about fighters. This is already enough for the fighters,
Mm-hmm.
Like despite the money on the table and all that effort they make to be there, the contracts and all that, we're here still talking about the fighters. Jiu-jitsu it's like on a spotlight now, and it's good to have that many people talking about it. So it's always good for the sport, they're doing a great effort.
Anything for it, I think it's good that they're still attempting to make things better. That they're, whether it's format whether it's locations, whether it's new productions, new tournament organizers. I mean, you see, because there's a lot of people signing up, gyms everywhere opening up, and you kind of have to perfect it. Or I like the way that they're at least putting interest into something, and not just leaving jiu-jitsu how it was 10 years ago. Because I always hear stories like 10 years ago, like, oh my gosh, you had blues, purples, and white belts, in one bracket because they were so small, or sometimes, or they had brown and black belts doing because they were so small, or even like women's division. Our professor, she would always say like, oh gosh, I used to fight black belts, for years, and when she was a brown belt, and because there were hardly ever women, these always small or one or two divisions, so they would combine brown belts and black belts to compete. So it's great that you always hear. We weren't around to view the growth of it, but to hear like, okay, well, at least there's progress being made in jiu-jitsu, and whether it's the rules or the tournaments or the payout for black belts, especially.
I've been in jiu-jitsu for like 12, 13 years now. And I remember my first tournament, I was like 14 years old or so, and I was planning to fight at 9 a.m. So the schedule came out, and I was supposed to fight at 9, and my fight was like at 2 p.m.
That's by the time you fought?
Yeah. So my first fight was at 2 p.m. And that was a bracket of 3, if I'm not mistaken. And it took like 3 hours to finish the bracket, because in the middle of the tournament, there was like kids waiting. I was just a kid waiting for the tournament to go. And there was adults as well. So the bracket of brown belts going on. Of course, the ring coordinators forgot about us. So we were all waiting. And it took like 3 hours to finish like 2-3 fights. It was terrible. But, that was the world back then. It's kind of normal. And one guy from my gym, he fought at midnight. And he's supposed to fight like 3 p.m. or so. And he fought and then for his weight division, there was nobody. So they just let him know there. It was like, oh, so there's nobody for you. You're the champion. Congratulations. You want to go for the open class? And he was like, yeah, sure. So he was waiting for the open class, and his first fight was against like an ultra heavy who was lightweight against the ultra heavy at midnight.
Oh,
so it was like terrible. But
I hear stories like that of people like their tournament experiences like for a long time ago. Like it was like that. It was, or like high school gyms, and like not just like how we here a lot of the tournaments are high school gyms, but where it's like one big mat sometimes. Where it used to be, or here like it used to be like just one big mat, and it was just chaos all the time. And organized until people started having these tournaments organized a little bit better. But how did you get involved in jiu-jitsu?
I have an uncle who works he lives in Beverly Hills for 25 years or so, and he runs the Beverly Hills Jiu-Jitsu Club. Okay. And so he trains for like his whole life. And I used to like...
Which uncle?
My uncle is Marcos Vinicius.
Oh, okay.
Lucia, same last name as me. So he runs the Beverly Hills Jiu-Jitsu Club. He came here like 25 years ago. We always were like close as much as we could, because back then there was like no internet. It was not as easy as today. But anyways, and then I moved to a house right next to one of his friends' gym, Professor Rogério Gavazza. He runs the federation in Rio now. And then I came to Rogério to train with him, to try jiu-jitsu, see how that was. And then I never stopped since then. And I started judo when I was 3 years old, as like basically every kid in Brazil. We always start in judo very, very young. Some of us stop, some of us don't. And then I had like a little background, and I started with Rogério, and I never stopped ever since. And when I try to be like a competitor, I moved to Soul Fighters to try to find like more training partners, more a bigger gym, more competition style. And then I've been in Soul Fighters for 10 years now, like 9 years now. Yeah.
So when you started out, was it what brought you to Soul Fighters? Just the wanting to experience a lot more jiu-jitsu, or
Soul Fighters came from the Kyoto. It's a gym in Brazil, like a old school gym in Brazil. My uncle also came from Kyoto. So my uncle knows Tanquinho and Tank since they were like kids, and also Professor Master
Tank's his brother.
Tanquinho's brother, yeah. And also Professor Alvaro, it's just one of the Soul Fighters owners. So my uncle is a very good friend with Alvaro. And then when I was talking to him about competition and all that, I said, oh, I want to compete more. I want to be like, in the higher ground. And he sent me to Tanquinho and Tank to, be more directed to tournaments. And then I stick with them. And Tank was, in fact, he was kind of a father for me during all those years. And then he came to America, and Tanquinho called me, invited me to work with him too. And was like the option I had to make an investment and come over and try my life here, you know.
That's awesome. And how long have you been in the States yet?
Yeah, I got here in October 2016, so it was like 2 years and a little bit. 2 years and 3 months.
Do you go back to Brazil often? Or have you
there was the first time here in this December. I went back there after 2 years without seeing my mom.
Oh, I remember we were talking about,
Yeah, a friend of mine in Brazil, she got tickets for me and my wife to go there and visit our family on a Christmas. It was like a big Christmas gift, you know. It was good to see everybody back in town. Brazil is a beautiful place. You know,
what part of Brazil did you go back to?
Rio.
That's Rio.
I'm from Rio. It's the best part.
Yeah,
everybody says.
You always hear like people just say, "Is it Sao Paulo or Rio?" I mean,
no, my friends from Sao Paulo don't like me to say that, but you know, deep down they know that Rio is the best place in Brazil. But you know, anyways.
Yeah. So when you went back, do you miss Rio or you miss Brazil?
Yeah, Brazil is a hard place to live. In fact, you know, it's a beautiful place for vacation and all that, but it's super hard to live in Brazil. Everything is super expensive.
Oh, really?
It's dangerous, you know, and being like I've been in Brazil for my whole life. I know exactly where to go and where don't go, but it's still dangerous, you know. So for Jiu-Jitsu, America is the place now. You know, everything is going on here. The money is here. The opportunities are here. And I think Jiu-Jitsu like gave me the opportunity to jump to this place, and here I am, you know. But Brazil is a beautiful place. It's just too hard to live in, especially with Jiu-Jitsu. And, you know, it is what it is. Now I'm here. I go there, visit my family. And the opportunity I have, I will be there, try to help. But my life will be here now.
That's great. When you mentioned, I mean, there's a lot. Is it just like the violence in Rio? Or is it Rio that's a lot of that I always do? Because you hear a lot about, especially a lot of people that I follow on Instagram or Facebook that are from Rio or Brazil in general. Just they always say they post a lot of corruption stories and turmoil going on, violence. Is that kind of, how do you feel? Has that affected jiu-jitsu in Brazil?
Yeah, it affects the fact like people have money, but they can't spend in jiu-jitsu, for example, for once. And for you to be a professor in jiu-jitsu, you're going to spend a lot of money. Like if you want to have a car, you're going to spend a lot of money on it. It's like crazy expensive. The gas is super expensive. The rent is super expensive. So that makes you raise the prices on your gym. And so people don't have money to pay for the gym. And, you know, it makes it like super hard to handle a gym and having a good life at the same time, you know. Either you're going to have a lot of people training at your gym and not paying for it because they don't have money, in fact, or you're going to raise the money and you don't have as many students as you should, you know. So end up being like a fair competition. Mm-hmm. And it's just too hard, man, you know. The opportunities are not for everyone there, you know. Every once in a while you will find somebody who had a good opportunity and took the chances, and a lot of people just take the chances and end up falling apart, you know, and that happens a lot. It's sad, but it happens a lot, you know.
Do you think there's a lot of guys in jiu-jitsu that are in Brazil that are just not known because, I mean, that are big, that are really good? Because I always hear, but you always see a bunch of names, especially when you see the Brazilian nationals come up of these names, and you see the highlights. I'm like, gosh, those guys are amazing, but I've never heard of them.
Yeah, there's
you think
a
they're
lot
just
of
left? They're just not, are just so limited because they can't come to the United States.
Yeah, there's a lot of like I had problems with that before when I was blue, purple belt, even brown belt. I was competing a lot. I was doing like good in tournaments, and I tried to test myself here in America for Worlds, Pan Ams, and I got my visa denied 5 times. So that's like a lot of money. Every time you apply for the visa in Brazil, it's a lot of money. For Brazilian currency, it's like $1,000 or so. And then after this, you have to pay for the flight ticket, for the hotel, and also imagine the money you spend to come here and fight the Worlds, not knowing if you're going to win or not, of course. So it's a lot of money, and you end up not having, like, you have a lot of talent in Brazil. You go for Brazilian nationals for like blue, purple, brown belt. You see a lot of very, very tough guys fighting, and they don't have the opportunity to show them to the world because it's just, you know, it's another world. Back in Brazil, it's hard to be
stuck
here.
there.
Yeah, now it's a little easier. You see like some teams making the connection to America, like big teams like Alliance and Check Matt. They have like some guys from Brazil and they bring them here. Gracie Barra
They
do
do a
that
lot
too,
too, yeah.
you know, and they have like a good talents. They try to come here with like a competition visa or a competitor visa. I don't know how that works, but anyways, and they have the opportunity to see the other side of jiu-jitsu. But in jiu-jitsu in Brazil, it's hard to live only with jiu-jitsu. You know, I had a hard time for my whole life, and now it's getting better, but it's still super hard.
Yeah, now when you're been training for so long, what made you stick around, or what makes you enjoy training now? I mean, 12 years, that's a long time of doing a sport or just doing anything in general. Of 12 years, what keeps your interest in jiu-jitsu right now?
And jiu-jitsu always changes, you know. You're gonna have you will see, no matter how long you've been training jiu-jitsu, you will see something that you don't know yet, and that makes you study more. You know, there's unlimited different positions and knowledge going around, and you're always gonna learn something new. Sometimes you create new techniques, and then you show the techniques to the people, and they were like, "Oh wow, I never saw that before." And that amazes you. And sometimes I show positions to like my teammates. They've been training for like 20 years, and I show position. They were like, "Oh, wow, I never saw that before." And the guy been training for 20 years, he never saw that. And the other way around also happens. They show me something, and that was like, "Whoa, I never
Little
saw."
details like, oh, I never thought about. I always hear that. That's
you know
the
what
one
I'm
thing I
saying?
always
That
hear.
after like 20 years involved in a sport, so it's something new. It's something different that amazes me all the time. You know, jiu-jitsu never stop amazing me. There's always something new going on. And the possibilities you have just through jiu-jitsu it's also unbelievable. You know, you can do a lot using jiu-jitsu as a tool, and that also like inspires me to, you know, keep moving, keep learning, keep in motion, and, you know, keep in jiu-jitsu world.
Yeah, our professor, he always says, like, when someone, if we have a seminar or an instructor come, and or he always says, like, hey, I don't care if, he always tells us, and he always says, I don't care if someone's teaching you an armbar, pay attention to the way they're teaching it to you, because you're going to learn something that, you know, that I never thought of teaching you, or that I don't know. There might be some grip or how they use it, or how, you know, how they apply it, that you always learn. It doesn't matter, because you always want to learn, how do you do the armbar? Well, show me an armbar. How do you do it? Because there's like the details, like, oh, wow, that's, you know, you start putting pieces together for your own game. And that's how I felt. I learned a move the way I was taught. And then after I feel like, okay, I'm very good at that move, I kind of add like, okay, well, I need to do this to make it work for me, or especially because I'm a bigger guy. Okay, I need to do this better, or I need to add this, or I can't do it the way they do it, or the way I was taught by someone that's 150 pounds. You know, how can I do it at 250 pounds? And then so I add my own little, like, okay, my little ideas on it to make it work.
In 2014, I went to the Europeans, and then after I went to Russia with my uncle to do some seminars. I was like brown belt, competing a lot, training a lot in jiu-jitsu for a long time. So at that feeling that you know everything, you know, that always cross your mind every once in a while. And then I saw him starting the seminar showing triangle and armbar. And I was like, really? We came all the way to Russia to learn like triangle and armbar. So he asked me, do the triangle and armbar. So I showed him. And it said, show me with all details you can do. And then I showed him, and he was like, all right, so look at this, try to do that. And he showed me some details that was like, wow. And it made like a huge difference in my life, huge difference in my game. After that point, I started showing the same way he showed me to my students, but I add some stuff that it's like, it makes sense in my head, you know, and it became even more complete. And my students enjoyed that. And when they become black belts, eventually they will show with the same details, and keeps going on, you know. So that knowledge never stops. Keep going.
It's a good evolution.
Yeah,
it just keeps growing.
It's unbelievable. Jiu-jitsu is unbelievable because of that. You know, always changes.
Yeah, and one of the things that I know that when I found you and started, you know, following you and reading up on you, was one of the things is, aside from jiu-jitsu being a passion about you, is you have a lot of special projects that you do now, but also that you did in Brazil with a lot of special needs kids, and you don't see that a whole lot. I mean, you see in American sports, and we got into the conversation yesterday when I visited your academy, how separate things are, and how did you find your passion to work with with special needs kids?
Yeah, that thing that we were just talking about, everything being new, the jiu-jitsu never stop amazing you, like when you see new techniques and all that. It's about evolution, You see jiu-jitsu evolving, and when you go for a specific, like you have a troubled kid at the gym, being bullied at school or being a bully at school or something like that, bad behavior, and you make them get better, it takes you like a month or so to see results. And when you see those results, that change your day, When a parent come back and say, hey, my kid got better in the school, the grades are better, this got better, that changes your life. When you work with special needs, that happens every day. So when you see one of your students, one of my students in the case, tying his own belt is already like a life changing. That means a lot, In the normal day, you don't see that as much, but for special needs, that means a lot. So every day you're gonna see something different. Sometimes I see a student like putting the gis together, organizing the gis after class. Sometimes I see a student organizing the shoes and the entry of the class, of the room. So it's always something new that it's like a victory, And working with special needs allows you to have this kind of surprise every day, which is like when the passion gets even bigger,
Yeah, that's a special kind of it, and of passion, because everybody has a great heart, wants to help, and has a great heart on how to show somebody that's maybe limited in some form. And that struck us, because Ryan and I a lot, especially my family, because we have a son who's autistic, and he's on the spectrum, and how amazing jiu-jitsu has helped him through the years, because he struggled early when he was learning how to with jiu-jitsu. He struggled a lot, and there's certain things that are still hard for him, not just in jiu-jitsu but in general. But with jiu-jitsu, it's amazing how it completely brought him out of that stigma of being autistic or not being able to do something. And
the poor kid, right?
The poor kid, for me, we mentioned that a lot yesterday, and now it took a lot, especially for adjusting as parents. It was hard, especially my wife, for her to stop, because our coach would be like, stop, leave him alone. Or if he was having a hard day on the mat, like, no, go. And he figured it out, like, well, I can do that. I can roll, I can do a takedown. And so was it. So when we find somebody that's so into it, you want to, why, like, hey, why, what makes you want to help these kids so much? And it's true when you see those little victories, and because when we saw it in our son and the victories that he had every day, it was awesome.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Even jiu-jitsu was, not just tying his belt, because tying a belt was one of the things too that was great. Tying his belt was amazing. One of the things, learning takedowns was, or learning one move, like, oh wow, that's for us was always amazing, because we saw how hard it was for him to learn half of the move, and not for him to completely learn one move.
Those are like small victories that are actually part of a big victory afterwards. When you see him tying the belt, like one knot at a time, one takedown at a time, one sweep at a time, there are like small victories. When you see the big picture, he knows jiu-jitsu. That's the big victory. He's part of a whole new world. He's part of like competition world. He's part of jiu-jitsu world. He's not like bullying at the school anymore. He's like a strong kid. He can take care of himself. So it's a huge victory,
Yeah, one of the hardest things, it was years ago, and I don't know if I ever shared this on the air, but he came back from school and he goes, Dad, why am I different? Am I different? And I think he started noticing in like there's a separation, because he had for a while he had a special ed, and then he got into regular classes, and he was just an honor roll. This year he was an honor roll student in school, and so he's great. He does amazing. He has to work a lot harder. But when you have your kid question, like, okay, why am I different? When they notice it, like why something, why am I being treated differently, or why is this? It's hard as a parent. They don't, and they don't understand. A lot of people don't understand other than like, oh, we're sorry, or like, oh, like pity party kind of thing. And
Yeah, I have like a big story about that. When I first started the project, I had a meeting with the parents to show them what jiu-jitsu were about, and to explain them how the fight works and all that, and ask permission to start working with their kid. So one mom came over after the meeting, and she said, like, Professor, you can try to work with my kid, but he's like super aggressive. He beats me up every once in a while. We'll have like big fights. He's strong. And like, to be honest, I can't wait for him to go. Like, she meant like for him to die, because she couldn't handle that anymore. And then my first response was like, oh my, what kind of person could say something like that, you know? But, and then I realized that she deals with him for 22 years, every single day, with an aggressive kid, super strong, out of control. It was not an excuse, of course, but, you know, it's understandable when you see from her point of view that kind of reaction. I would never agree with that, but, you know, you can see where that came from. Anyways, so this kid came to the class. His name was Eric. And on the first moment, he didn't want to do the class at all. And I was like, oh, you want to do the class? And he was like, no, no, no. And his way to say no, but he was like, no, all mad. He doesn't want to be part of it. And I started doing the classes, and I understood that he was like a rough kid and he wants to be challenged. So I was like, oh, Eric, you don't want to do that? No, because you can't do that, right? And he was like, of course I can. And I said, no, I don't think you can hold me on the ground. And he said, no, I can't do it. Look how strong I am. And then I started bringing him closer. And so he started training with us, and he got better. He started being like super straight to train. He was like, discipline was on him. If it was somebody like stepping out of the line, he was like, go back to the line. He was all tough, you know, keep being tough, but very good kid. 1 or 1.5 years after the project first started, I took him to a tournament to do like an exhibition match. And he came into the place. It was like a big school, talking to every single person on the way, every security guard, every like person walking by. He was talking to everybody, shaking hands, hugging people. And then when we got there to the tournament, his mom said, I never saw Eric doing that in my life. And she was like crying and all tears. And she said that he was like kind of protecting her now instead of attacking her. Of course, he was mad every once in a while. He was a very hard kid to deal with, but he wasn't like putting that out on her anymore. He wasn't like attacking her anymore. And she said, I had no idea what was going on when he first started, but see Eric like this, like hugging random people on the street, it's unbelievable, you know. I would never believe if you tell me that if I wasn't seeing that. So that was like a huge victory for the project, and show that that poor kid was just treating it wrong. You know, you need to learn how to deal with him. And that first speech of her mom to me, the first talk, were like, oh, I can't wait for him to go. That meant a lot. I would never forget that. It's been like 5-6 years, and I would never forget that. It was like tough for me to hear, you know.
Of course. I mean, I can't, for a parent to feel something like that, or to be at a point in their life where they're desperate, and that desperation,
Yeah.
and they feel like there's nothing more. They have no outlook.
Yeah, and the kid was 22 years old. You imagine that for 22 years, every single day, since it was like, let's say 10, he was able to fight back. So imagine like for 12 years, he fighting every day, being tough every day, you know, special needs. So you don't have, in Brazil especially, you don't have a lot of help on that. So you don't have like people to help you, to support you that much. You know, it's hard. They were from like a poor family, so they don't have like much help, you know, family around and all that. So I can imagine how bad she was struggling with him, you know. And then when I left Brazil, he was one of my best students. Super tough indeed, to be honest. He was like super tough. And he made a fight with Thales Leites from UFC, the UFC fighter.
Oh.
He made a super fight with him. And it was like amazing. It was amazing to see. I still have like video of it and all that. His great kid.
When you started the program, where did you start the program in Brazil?
In Brazil, there's a school that works like as a nonprofit organization. So everything will be for free. for whoever comes in. And of course, they have like limitations. And it's very, very famous school since I was a kid. It's called APAI. It's like Association of Parents and Friends of Exceptionals is how they call special needs before. And anyways, I just walked in once. I don't know exactly what made me walk in. I was passing by, I watched the gate, and I just walked in. You know, the people would say it was God. I would like to think the same. You know, everybody believes in different
Something
stuff.
nudged you that way. Huh?
Yeah, but something pushed me into that door, and I walked it in. I talked to the director, and I asked her if I could teach jiu-jitsu there. And she was like, I don't know what jiu-jitsu is, but we really need like volunteers. Of course, we can't pay you or anything, but we need volunteers. So whatever you're teaching, if you want to be a volunteer, we're in. Just you have to convince the parents to do the same. And then I made that meeting with the parents and explained them how jiu-jitsu works. Basically, they had like a confusion with MMA. So the UFC back then was like in open channels. So there were some UFC fights going on, like in a big TV shows, and so they know MMA. So they thought jiu-jitsu and MMA was the same thing. So the first response was like, "No, they can't punch my kid in the face. He has Down syndrome." And I was like, "No, there's no punches, no kicks." And I tried to explain everything, and everything went smooth. It was okay in the beginning.
Oh, when you're met with these parents, was it open arms? Were they open to having their kids come in? Like, did you have like big turnouts?
They were kind of like sketchy, looking at me like, oh, what this big guy wants to help us, why he's here and all that. It's in the beginning, it's kind of sketchy, I understand. And they're super afraid of what might going on with their kids because they have special needs. So they don't know the limitations, exactly what to do. I did a physical education college for 7 years in Brazil, two different colleges. I didn't get my degree in either one of them, but I studied for a long time, so I know how to work with them. I had specific classes for that. So I knew a little more than them, and I knew the limitations, how far they could go. And so I set up a plan of how I'm going to work, exactly what to do, a game plan for them. And then went from there, but they had no idea how that's gonna play. So they were like kind of sketchy in the beginning, but they trust on me and mostly on the institute director. So the person responsible for the school, she said, "Oh, let's do it." So they kind of trust on her, and they allowed me to start.
That's. I mean, you don't. I mean, they're here in the United States. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a whole lot of schools that have. Like are specific, like have like sports, like not just jiu-jitsu, but just like sports in general for just special needs. I mean, there's a lot of programs here that there's around. When you came to the United States a couple years ago, did you have the idea of bringing something like that over here too?
Yeah, always. That was always my plan A. But in the beginning here it's super hard. We have to work with the documents and immigration. It's tough. There's a lot of things to go through, a lot of steps to go. And then after 2 years, I settled down. My documents are all right. Everything is okay. And then after all this time, I have I'm up on my feet again, and I can start working on the properly way, And I don't want to start a program to stop in the middle because I don't have condition to keep going on, So now that everything is working well, my wife already settled down. I'm settled down. We have our apartment. Everything is going good. I can put my time, put my effort on it and make it work, before something happens. If we stay exactly as we are now, everything will be fine. I don't depend on anything to keep working with the project. And that's the rule number one, never stop.
What's the project right now? What do you have going on right now?
So now we have we have the schedule opening for classes every day, Monday through Friday. They can pick the day to go, and we're trying to gather up people and put them together to do the class. Meanwhile, we have one student going frequently, Isaac. He made just a super fight a week ago. Awesome kid. He's the first guy to his dad and him. They're like the first ones to believe in a project and just dive in. And so he's training with us Tuesday and Thursday during the night class because Professor Tanquinho is there too. So Professor Tanquinho runs the class. and I run the class with him. So I go on the side, teach him some secrets, and then when the time to roll, he has a game plan set, and Professor Tanquinho helps me out, and we put them together, and he rolls with everybody. So now we have him, but as soon as we have more people coming by, it will be easier for us to put a team, put a group together for special needs only, and start teaching them all the basics, bring them up to speed, and show them, enable them to join a normal class.
How did so you're teaching everything out of Taquinho's at Soul Fighters here?
Yeah, in
Okay.
Tempe, yeah.
And Tempe at the Tempe location, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you have it under Soul Fighters, or do you? Or I saw you had it under. Is it Unlimited BJJ?
Yeah, my team is Soul Fighters, so the Soul Fighters is always behind the project. Has always been. So my family Soul Fighters, but the Unlimited BJJ program is the name of the program. We call Unlimited BJJ because we don't want to put like bounds. We don't want to put limits to Jiu-Jitsu. So in Brazil, we used to call Projeto Jiu-Jitsu Sem Limites, means project Jiu-Jitsu with no limits. And then when we would free translate, it doesn't sound that good. So we put Unlimited BJJ is better.
Yeah, so you have one kid, and so what is it that you need to help the program grow? I mean, how are you reaching? Are you reaching out to promote it to reach more kids? I mean, is there a cost with this too?
Yeah, my first concern is to bring more people into the gym. That's number one. So I wanted people to know that the gym is open. They will have the facility. They will have the uniforms. They have everything for free. They just need to come by and train and see if they like it or not. Of course, just because they're special needs doesn't mean they're going to love Jiu-Jitsu at first. So maybe they won't like it. Maybe they will, but the option is there. They just have to come by. After we have the class settled down, they will never pay, not even a dime for nothing. So everything will be for free forever. And then I'll find a way to pay pay Professor Tanquinho. If we have to go for a bigger place, the sponsors will take care of it. So nobody will pay money ever. And the donation PayPal is already open. So if people wants to donate, wants to help, that's the way to do. But now I want more students to come by, more people to know about a project and just join us. Just come and have a good time and know Jiu-Jitsu. That's all.
Yeah, and we'll definitely we'll add all that into the show notes and promote all that, because we also, of course we believe in it, and we want to help with whatever we can, and so we'll get all that information and we'll add it into the show notes, and so people can get the information. So you guys have it. It's free for everybody to come and try, which is awesome.
Come and do it forever. Not just try, but do it forever. No matter how long they would train, it will be for free.
Yeah. And so how is it, how do you teach a special needs kid? I mean, incorporating, do you separate them? Do you incorporate them with the normal, either normal kids class or the regular adult classes? How do you find the format or your teaching method?
One thing that we have to understand is we need to create a space between the normal world and the special needs world so we can talk to each other and learn how to deal with each other. That's the first rule. You don't have to don't have stairs on the buildings anymore just because it has people with wheelchair. And you don't have to ban the wheelchair from going into buildings, but you have to find a way for them to go in. And that's the half term that we've been working on. So when we start a special needs class, we teach them all the basics. We teach them how to keep safe, how to fall properly, how to side control, and all the basics, like step by step, super slow, and respecting their time. And then we're going to teach them how to deal with the adults, mostly during the normal class. At the same time, I'm going to bring the adults every once in a while to join the special needs class for them to understand how to deal with a special needs kid. So they will learn from each other, and that's the big thing. So when they learn from each other, when they all learn from each other, when I have a special needs on the class, I don't have to be worried about, because they all know how to deal with him. They won't be only me. So no matter if he's rolling with me or with a blue belt or with a brown belt, they will learn from each other. If eventually a white belt joins the class, a brown belt will come by and teach him how to handle with a special needs, And this guy, stay on a jiu-jitsu or not, when he goes out to the real world, he will know how to deal with his special needs as well. So you learn in jiu-jitsu, but you take that for your life. You know, it's for the world is there. The special needs are all over the place, and you have to learn how to deal with them. You know, they're not. You don't have to be like pity and look at them like, oh, look at that, it's so cute. They're working. No, they're working like everybody else. They need to be respected for that. You know, and you just have to deal how you have to learn how to deal with them in the right way. That's all. You don't have to treat them like a pet. No, oh, look at that, so cute. No, it's a normal. It's a person. He has feelings. He has like his needs. It's a normal person. You just have to learn how to deal with him on his speed. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's a huge misconception. Where I think people have the best intentions sometimes, and they want to help, or they just don't know how or how to interact and how. Because I mentioned to you about tournaments, about like, oh, a special needs tournament, and you're like hold on, like you can't just put out a bunch. You had a great explanation about it, how it was, how you can't just have a special needs tournament. You can't just have you incorporate them with the super fights so they get the experience of coming out, waking up. You had a great analogy. Like you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about the tournament, you're getting that game mentality.
Yeah.
And it's huge. I mean, you can't, because I was thinking about that after you said that. I was like, wow, I never really thought about it. Where, in my own way, I was like, okay, I would love to help, but I really have no idea how to explain a lesson to a special needs kid if it's, whatever, they have Down syndrome or like how to be at their level to like, okay, this is how you do it without being almost insulting. And
yeah, it's normal to be careful with that. And it's good to be careful because you won't make mistakes every time, sometimes you deal with people that don't know exactly what to do and they try to do it and they do it wrong. So in my concept for like tournaments, for example, it's already super hard to have a special needs only class for whatever sport you think. So if you have like baseball or basketball or jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter. If you have a sport like specific for special needs, when you do a tournament and you take the risk for them to be like sad because they lost, or like to lose interest in a jiu-jitsu because they don't understand exactly how to deal with like winning or losing, it's not something that I am like willing to take the fall. So I rather to put them to do like super fights and enjoy the time in the competition, wake up thinking about the tournament, going there and having the good experience, because tournament is good and bad experience for everybody. All the world champions, they already lost once, and there's like a big, it's a bad moment. Sometimes you can overcome that, sometimes you won't. But I don't want to take that risk with a special need since it's so hard to find them like a special, like a good sport opportunity, So I rather to have them on a good time and a good, only on the bright side than let them down in a tournament just because of a medal, So they will be there, they will do a fight, everybody will be watching them. They will be on a spotlight for the first time in their life, not by the poor kid fighting. They will be like they're a competitor. They're using the gi. They're wearing a brand. They're being like, they're representing the sponsor or something like that. That's super big. And they will win the fight. They will go back home with the medal. They will make mommy and daddy proud. And, that means a lot. That's a big thing for them, And go home and think that, oh, I let my dad down because I lost. Oh, I have Down syndrome. I will always lose, or whatever. That's
you could
not
ruin the opportunity.
Exactly. And that I don't want to take that risk. Maybe I'm being like soft, but I don't want to take that risk. I'd rather have them winning every once in a while, maybe losing at the gym, so they can understand how to lose as well. But when they're on the spotlight, they can be like the superhero that they always want to. It's important for them to be that superhero, and that's important for me.
Yeah, it's a good balance. I mean, you have to find the balance and so that they're learning and they're not just learning like the moves and self-defense, but also too like the life skills of being successful, like being like, oh, I won and I had a great experience. I felt the crowd cheering for me. And to find the balance between that and and making sure that they learn, hey, yeah, you're gonna not win every single time. Like it's not gonna be like, and do you find it better like in the academy, like in practice or in training to be a little easier?
Practice because first they're not in the spotlight. There's no like 200 people watching. If they lose, they will be for me or for somebody that they're like attached to, so they understand, they know each other, and it won't be like offensive or aggressive in any way. It will be under control, of course. They won't get hurt at all. So we have time enough to explain them that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Because when you lose, someone in your life will give you that speech. They're going to bring you back up, on your feet. Sometimes that won't work for special needs if it takes too long to be done, So when he fights me and I'm holding him on the ground, for example, for instance, just for one way to see, if I'm holding him on a side control and he can't escape, I need to show him like, oh, you won't escape every time you try, but try to do this, maybe will work. Try to do that, maybe will work. And then he will understand that it won't be every time that he will be stronger than me. Maybe there's people stronger than him in the world, but he won't experience that with 200 people watching and live streaming and Facebook, even if he don't understand that. But he won't be on the spotlight losing. He will be on the spotlight like a hero, and that's the whole goal of it,
Yeah. With the student you have right now, how did it go with the last tournament? You said he had a super fight.
Yeah, so he got a super fight with one of our students, Leo. Leo is a super solid kid, strong competitor, very good, and super kind. So they trained together a lot. And I decided to put him with Leo in the first tournament because I had no idea how he would react to a tournament since he's not training for a long time. And then we settled like a good game plan for him. Like you're going to take him down, go for the side control, and we work a little bit with underhooks. So if your opponent underhooks you, you underhook him back. And I have some like keywords for him that when I say he understands, that's the way that I work. So, for example, for the underhook, when the guy on the bottom has the underhook on him, I always say, uh-oh, and then he understands that he needs to underhook back. That's our like keyword. When I say, uh-oh, he looks for the arm to see if the arm is under his arm or not. So for the ones who fight jiu-jitsu, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. But anyways, the keyword, it's an easy way to work with him. So we put him to fight. The super fight for him was easy. He was feeling comfortable because it was Leo right there, and he knows Leo, so it was a comfortable match. And I don't think he realized how many people were watching the fight. And that makes like the big difference when he won and the ref raised his hand. The whole place, the whole crowd was like putting a big show, clapping hands together and making like a good noise. And then he realized, you can see his reaction changes when everybody started like clapping hands. It was like, oh, that's for me. And then he put his hands up and you can see the emotion coming.
Yeah.
It's
How
beautiful.
did you feel?
Oh man, it's like
just thinking about it.
Yeah, here it's like when your son is born, and you look at it, it's just the first moment. They're gonna take a lot of new nice moments coming from there, but that was the first step, At the gym is something very private. It's very close. It's a hard work. We work super hard. Isaac and I and Professor Tanquinho. And then when we got there, we can show the world exactly how we work. And in such a short time, we made that happen. So in like 3 weeks or so, we worked super hard to make that happen. So imagine what we can do in years, So it was a big evolution for the project. It was a awesome first step,
Yeah. Have you has anybody reached out to you yet? I mean, from exposure, or are you still is it still too new right now?
Yeah, some people talk to me every once in a while, like showing interest in jiu-jitsu. They want to bring, I know people, I know a kid, I have a cousin, I have that kind of thing. But it's hard to bring people to the gym. And I understand, it's hard for me to do my stuff as well. I need to go in a bank or something and I always forget, I keep forgetting, and the weeks pass by and nothing fix it. And sometimes you go to the gym, you need to go get in the car, get ready, go there, set up like 3 or 4 hours of your day just to go there and talk. And I understand that takes a little bit of time to go on. But the more we talk about it, more chances people have to, it's just like more heads up going on. So you hear that again, you see that picture again, and brings more people to the gym. And I just want to show them the opportunity. That's all. I'm not asking for anything in exchange. It's just show the jiu-jitsu and how good jiu-jitsu can be for their kid.
Yeah. Are you doing a format like adults or kids, or is it just both together right now?
For now, like adults will be the easiest way to start. First, because of the age. So from the 14 and up, everybody will be on the same level and the same class. It's easier to deal with. For kids, you have one kid with 4 years old, the other one with 8. They're completely different levels. So it's different to deal with them in the same class. However, that's the plan for now. We have a time to deal with all of them. So we have 5 days a week. We have plenty of time, plenty of hours on a schedule clear just for the project. So if I have kids coming in, I can settle down a time just for them. If I have adults, I will have a time for them too. So I have time and effort to do that, to make that happen. So it won't be hard. I just need them to come over.
All right. I keep trying to think like, okay, what is it that you need first and foremost to get this even rolling more? I mean, you have the PayPal account set up for donations and everything too. Are you trying to put ads? Are you reaching out to people on Facebook and or Instagram a lot more?
I'm trying to make contact with students. So now I'm not worried about sponsors yet. I'm not worrying about money yet. Of course, all the money that comes, I can push toward the project and buy more material and more time and all that. Help with the rent and the gym or whatever. But the first thing, I need them to be at the gym. That's number one. When I have more students coming in, and then when I start having problems struggling with time and money, and then I will be worried about that. Until then, I just want the students to come over, and I'll deal with that after, So the money will never be a problem, never be an issue. Of course, the more sponsors we have, the easier will be the job. The more support we will have, the structure will be better. But that's not number one, Number one is to have people at the gym. So now I want to reach out to people. If like a institute that works with that, a cousin of yours or whatever, whoever that has like a special needs or a contact with somebody with special needs, just send them to the gym. It's an option, and it's one more option for them to have a good sport to practice, a lot of people, when you go to the school, a regular high school, you have a soccer program, football program, cross country. You have a lot of things, baseball, basketball, whatever. And but for Down syndrome, you don't have that much. So I'm just opening an option for jiu-jitsu to be their sport.
Yeah, and hopefully we want it to grow and succeed. Again, I'll say it, just because we've seen how well jiu-jitsu's helped us. And even everybody has a great story about jiu-jitsu sometimes. They have a background and that they needed help, and jiu-jitsu helped them. And with us, it was with all 4 of us. My wife trains, she competes. My 2 boys compete. I coach the kid. I help to coach the kids and compete. And so I have a passion for the sport and the lifestyle. And so definitely when someone wants to share it with somebody else that maybe he's never seen it or maybe not have ever had the opportunity. Now let's, I want to help. Let's do something. Let's get these, help get the program rolling. It's been amazing for us. What in jiu-jitsu since you've been, or since Nick has been doing, because he started before you did. What changes have you noticed over the years that's helped him?
I think he's become a little less independent. I think because he used to be really to himself, and I think he's got a lot less. I think he's been more open to express himself.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he's, I don't know how to say it. He's become more, I don't know.
Like reachable. It's easy to reach him out and have him out. Yeah. That's the response.
Able to like talk to him more, and yeah.
It's a good like a pathway, because So I mean, he was always like like not antisocial, but always like to himself. And now he's like just won't stop talking, and he wants to be with everybody, and he wants to interact with everybody, and he's and it's so funny because their mentalities are so different. And I always tell that story with both boys. He's like, especially during tournaments, and Ryan's like the type that he wakes up, his game face is on, he's trying to prepare mentally like normal, like everybody else, like he's trying to fight the nerves and the fears and all that. And Nick's like just any other day, just like I wish that I could handle it, like the pressure that way, because he'll be like, hey Nick, you got to get your gi on. Like, okay. Hey Nick, you got to go in. Okay. And it's just like the way it's just normal. It's
all good.
Yeah, it's like, okay, let's just go.
He's always ready.
Let's go fight. Okay, let's go. He's
That's
like,
nice.
he's always ready. He's just, you got to call him like, hey, come on, let's go. Okay, let's go. And he's ready to go. And he knows exactly what he has to do. He listens well, and he's, super aggressive, and has his own game. And we were talking about that. It's like he has his own game. You can't teach that. You can't teach his style. You can't teach that, and I like that because he made his own, like, this is the way I do it, and this is the way how it works for me by himself. It's just the way it is. So yeah, so we've loved enjoying and how jiu-jitsu's helped him and a lot, and just us and as a family together, because it's helped to stop with that, like, the pity, and like to stop with like the like, I worry about, like, I don't worry about him, like he's fine, I'm not worried about him, it's just,
yeah, you learn how to deal with him, and that's the big change here. You're gonna learn his limits, not only as a parent but as a coach, or just by cheering for him. You know exactly how he goes, and it's important how to learn. For us to learn how to deal with a special needs kid at all, we don't know how to do that. That's number one. I have some examples that, like in my project in Brazil, I had some people coming by to do interviews for TV shows and all. The project in Brazil was pretty big, and then I saw like happening more than once. A reporter coming by and saying for like autistic kid, "Oh, can you give me a hug?" And he was like, "No." Like straightforward, no. And I said, that's not how you approach as an autistic kid. You can't try to hug him out of nowhere. He won't like it. It's not that way. It doesn't work that way for him. And if you go for a Down syndrome kid, sometimes you can't hug him because of all the sexual stuff that happens with a special needs. They don't know exactly, with Down syndrome, they don't know exactly how to handle that. So it's not like very good to keep hugging them too much because you don't know what they might be thinking. You know what I'm saying? You need to handle that with being carefully. So anyways, I saw that happening every once in a while, and it's important to understand how to deal with that, and so you can approach them in the right way. And little by little, just being part of the gym, sometimes you're not even part of the class, but you're a parent of somebody at the gym that runs the project or whatever. So just by seeing the kid coming in and out, you know how to deal with him, and that's already big enough,
Yeah, absolutely. Just inclusion, you're including them, and I mean, they know they I think people kid themselves like, they won't notice that we make a special area for them, like they won't, like, we'll separate them, they won't notice, and like they notice.
Yeah, and you don't have to just include them into your world. You have to include you into the world, adapt for both. That's the big thing about a project. You don't have to include them and into your world to make them understand how to talk to people. You need to understand how to talk to him. Like in Brazil, in America, and Africa, you have different ways to approach people about culture. And you don't want them to learn how to deal with you. When you go there, you're going to learn how to deal with them. So you adapt. It's the same with special needs. You don't have to teach them how to talk to somebody properly. Like, you need to hug him. It's not how that works. You need to teach the other people that sometimes the special needs don't want to hug you. And that's all right.
Like a normal person, like, I don't want to hug everybody.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like a high five is enough sometimes. So you just teach him, like, if the kid is like kind of awkwardly saying no for your hug, just high five him and say, hey, how we doing? High five, boom. That's all. You fix it, So it's not, the inclusion is not only from them to us. from us to them too. And once you deal with that world just by being part of the gym that has that kind of program, or just by like listening to something specific about that, or watching videos or whatever, you are already learning. So from that point forward, when you see like a kid with special needs, you're going to think about a high five before you hug, you know?
Or just treat them like, hey, how are you? Shake hands, you know?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, people can't even do that. I mean, you don't shake your hand and look you in the eye, you know, kind of thing.
I was like, that was a funny story about, I was in like an Arnold classic, you know, Arnold classic, like a show for like a big fair for
they just had it,
bodybuilder and all that. So I went there with 4 of my kids, special needs, after a jiu-jitsu presentation going on the same day. Before we walk into like the show, there was a huge fair. Before we walk in, I call them together and say, hey, you all are going to stick around me. You always will be with me. Please don't walk away. Stay with me. Please don't walk away. All right. And they were like, all right. By the time I opened the door, they just ran 2 different directions. Boom. They vanished in front of me. And I had to run. It was me and my cousin. So we had to run around and try to gather them up. And there was one of them where like between like some girls, it was 4 or 5 girls around like bikes, you know, that kind of thing, to take pictures. So he hugged all the girls and he wanted them to kiss him on the cheek. And one of the girls, she was like, no, I won't do that. You know, looks like disgusting, or, you know, something like that. And terrible. She just don't know how to deal with that. Maybe bad person, maybe not. But anyways, she doesn't know how to deal with it. And then I call him back and I say, yo, you don't want her to kiss you. We don't know what she did with that mouth. And then she understood. He did it. But I was like, yo, she doesn't know how to deal with that. And that was actually, it could be bad for him, because he tried to be nice with her and she just cut him like bad, you know? And he had no idea why. In fact, he was like, what's wrong with that? You know, everybody, my mom kisses me, everybody. So what's wrong with it? But she doesn't know how to deal with that. And sometimes you can offend somebody like big time with like small things, you know?
Yes,
And I paid back for him because I felt like it was my duty to pay back. And I did that in the right way. But anyways, it was rude for her, but I don't think she knows exactly what to do with that. Maybe it was her first experience with that, you know?
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of times people just don't know or never have been exposed to it, or they avoid it if they see the opportunity, you know, something like that. And it's hard. I mean, I don't ever, you know,
it makes me mad at first, and then you understand that maybe there was the first Down syndrome kid that she ever saw in her life. And, you know, I feel bad for being that rude, but it was kind of funny too. So whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, we obviously we wish you the absolute best, and we want to you know, help promote it, and hopefully the show helps you out, and we'll get it out there, and to help people come and reach out to you. We'll get all your information out. But if somebody wants to reach, where's the best place right now to get in contact with?
Now, Instagram, Facebook, and the website, they're all Unlimited BJJ. So if you go on Instagram, Unlimited BJJ, I will be there. Facebook, Unlimited BJJ. And on my Instagram, Allan Di Lucia, also you can reach me out. But all those social media, I'll be right behind a keyboard. So whatever you try to contact me, I'll be. There is nobody else reaching out using that social media, and also the PayPal. So like, there's a lot of people who actually want to help. They have no idea how. They don't have time to deal with, maybe like too busy, and I understand that. So helping this kind of project is already like a big help, you know. In Brazil, unfortunately, the project stopped exactly because of money. And at some point, the students that I put there to, you know, keep it up with the project, they had to work with something else. So they were struggling with money, and they end up like stopping the project to take care of their lives. Not their fault, but, you know, it happens. So we're trying to avoid that. For now, everything is okay. There's no complainings. It's all going good. And but of course, the more structure we have, the easier it will be to run the project. So if there's anybody interested in help, just go on a PayPal or on a Facebook, Instagram, and reach me out, and it will be awesome to have their help.
Yeah, we'll get all that information down too, and get help spread out your message and your team, Unlimited BJJ. But Allan, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on and learning, especially learning. That was the biggest thing. Yeah,
it's good to be here. It's good to be talking about that in so naturally way. It's good to see that jiu-jitsu actually helps, like for everybody, special needs or not. It's good to see the jiu-jitsu taking that proportion in the world. And now we have a super fight going on here.
Yeah.
Right? Gonna make it back here. Ryan's ready for me. When I got here, he was wearing his gi already.
Yeah, they're fighting for
submission only.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, he's I know one of the things that he wants to do. I mean, he wants to do a super fight and all that kind of stuff too. So we're trying to. I don't know. I'm not sure.
They will be the first one.
Yeah.
You're gonna start on the right way.
Yeah.
I guess a black belt.
So we'll get started. Yeah, no gimmies either. Yeah, no, man. You got to, everything goes. So, but Allan, thank you so much for coming, and we'll get everything out. We'll all your information out to everybody else. And if you're listening, please look it up to help out and see how you can help out any which way you can. And from Ryan and I and Allan, thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right, guys.